So today we're going to look at the prose lesson, A Wrong Man in Workers' Paradise, and we will see how the writer Rabindranath Tagore brings to the fore the importance of art. Now today's lesson will be basically on trying to look at the pre-reading questions. We're going to look at the glossary and a few other things which will help us to sort of prepare ourselves for the prose lesson itself. So let's take it from here. I expect all of you to have your books with you and focus on the pre-reading questions, write down those inputs, and when we get back to the lesson and when we do the class, at that point of time maybe we can ponder on those questions which on which you had prepared your notes. So let's begin without wasting further time. Let's go to the prose lesson written by Rabindranath Tagore, A Wrong Man in Workers' Paradise. Right, so the second, the prose lesson that we are going to do as part of the second item in Unit 1 is called as A Wrong Man in Workers' Paradise. You would have seen the first video. The first video was basically about the pre-reading part, as we always do. So we've done the pre-reading. We looked at a lot of questions on hobbies, and we also looked at why can't a hobby become a career. And then we looked at art. We looked at usefulness of art, and then I asked you a question. The last question was, the history of art is as old as human history. Why do you think even the people who lived in caves painted on the cave walls? So that was a task for you guys. Hopefully you have a few points written down, so we will look into that as well. So this particular story is written by Rabindranath Tagore. It was translated from the original Bengali work by Bhabani Bhattacharya. So this is a translated work from Bengali written by Rabindranath Tagore, and the story illustrates the famous slogan, art for art's sake, coined in the 19th century by the French philosopher Victor Cousin. So when you say art for art's sake, we are talking about no justification for any form of art. We are saying, okay, art need not serve any political, didactic, moral or practical purpose. Art is valuable, and art is valuable as art, and the only objective of art is the pursuit of pure beauty. So Tagore, however, conveys this complex concept in a simple and humorous narrative, reminds us of the popular proverb which we would have learnt at school: all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Right, so we'll go into A Wrong Man in Workers' Paradise, and like I always do, we will get into the glossary. Glossary becomes very important in order to understand the text, and I think this was explained by me when we were doing the poem Life by Charlotte Bronte. Right, so the first word is aerial. I think that's pretty simple. Exult, filled with joy. Gasp is to struggle for breath. Hustle is to move quickly. We normally come across the term hustle, bustle. And then jostle. Jostle is bump into or push. Linger, remain or stay. When we say moving finger, we are referring to fate, destiny. Okay, believe that the angel keeps a record of all the good and bad that we are involved in while on this earth. Peer is to look closely. Pitcher is a large pot or jug. Ply, work busily. Pry is to look closely or curiously. Pry. Quaint is an attractive. Quaint is something which is attractive because it's old-fashioned. Scan, I think we know. Summon, send for. Torrent is a stream. Trip, we know what a trip is. Trip is a journey, but the other word here in this case, it could also mean hop or dance with light steps. Whim, whims and fancies, something which is unusual, driven by impulse. And wisp is a curl of hair. So quite a few new words. We don't use these, not that they are very difficult words, but we don't use some of these words that often. So that way you could call them as passive words. Okay, so the title, when it comes to the title itself, we talk about a wrong man in workers' paradise. So we're talking about somebody who seems to be the word that I would use here for you to better understand the title is misfit. Someone who doesn't fit in. A wrong man in workers' paradise. You have a group of 6 people talking amongst yourselves, and there's one guy who's not at all into cricket, and all your discussions are based on cricket. So you would say this guy is a wrong man because he's a misfit, he doesn't fit in. Now where does this wrong man not fit in? It talks about workers' paradise. Now workers' paradise, if you don't take paradise, the term on its own, an ideal place, okay? Paradise is a happy place to be in, okay? So a wrong man in workers' paradise. Everybody else seems to be working, but this guy is a wrong man. So I think we sort of understand where we are heading to on the basis of what we did in the pre-reading session, the pre-reading video, and I'm going ahead. Right, I'm going to read parts of the story. I'm not going to get into the story I'm not going to read the entire text, but I'm going to pick words, phrases, sentences, sometimes paragraphs for us to understand this story better. I assume some of you have already read it. So as I always do, my purpose is not to read the story and help you to understand it, give you a summary. I believe in reading to comprehend, reading between the lines, reading in order to develop a connect with the present maybe. So I'm going ahead and I will obviously read the first few lines. The man never believed in utility. Having had no useful work to do, he indulged in mad whims. He made little pieces of sculpture, men, women, and castles, quaint earthen things dotted over with seashells. He painted. Thus, he wasted his time on all that was useless and unnecessary. People laughed at him. Sometimes he would vow to shake off his mad whims, but his mad whims would keep clinging to his mind. So that's a very clear description of the main character of the story, the wrong man. So you would have understood by now why he is called as the wrong man, because he never believed in utility, he indulged in mad whims, he made sculptures, and he also painted, and he wasted his time. Now, wasted his time is a phrase used by the author. Now, obviously, the main character doesn't believe he wasted his time. That's why he's doing what he's doing. But the author steps into the shoes of all of us readers who believe, many of us who believe that this is useless and unnecessary. People laughed at him. Sometimes he would vow to shake off his mad whims, but his mad whims would keep clinging to his mind. So how much ever he tried to get rid of these whims, these fancies, we looked at the meaning of whims, and this particular person, he somehow couldn't get rid of these impulses, these desires, and they kept clinging to him again and again. So that's basically what this introduction of this particular character is. So that's where I want to take off. What is your idea of people who indulge in these whims? Do you call them mad whims, or do you appreciate art? Do you, just like most of us think that this is useless and an unnecessary vocation? So these are things that I would want you to think about. So that's a little bit of an introduction of him, and he seems to have spent all of his life in unnecessary work. Again, that's found in second paragraph. On planet Earth, after his death, the gates of heavens flung open for him, and there's a connecting word which is used basically to the word used there is yet. Now, yet is a word which is used to join two sentences which are contradictory. Now, the author uses the word yet after the semicolon, and I'm going to focus on that. It's found in second paragraph. Yet after his death, the gates of the heavens flung open for him. So it was not a narrow entry. The gates were flung wide open for this person who was involved or indulged in mad whims. Right. So I'm moving ahead. Now then there is a mention of the moving finger, and I told you it's the angels and the aerial messenger. These are terms used, and the aerial messenger said, "Did we bring this man here by mistake?" The aerial messenger who took charge of the man made a mistake and found a place for him. Now, it's not possible, but there's a lot of humor involved in heaven. There are a lot of movies which are made in this concept of heaven and hell, and some people do take it seriously, but some people make a mockery of this entire thing. Now, here that's what is happening. By mistake, you talk about in the popular belief in India, you talk about Lord Yama. So there is maybe there is an error from the men who are supposed to take him to a particular destination, and the aerial messenger says the aerial messenger made a mistake. According to the author, you will find everything except leisure in this paradise. God, we haven't a moment to spare. Women whisper. Men say, we don't have a moment to spare. Women whisper, let's hurry. Time's a flying. Time is precious. We always have our hands full. Now, this is the sort of picture of paradise which is given to us. But the author says that these are things which make people happy in paradise. Now, this person was a newcomer. He had come to workers' paradise, and he did exactly the opposite of what most people did in workers' paradise. So what did he do? He lounged in the streets, jostled with hurrying men, lay down in green meadows. He was taken to task by busy farmers. He was always in the way of others. A hustling, active girl went every day to a silent torrent. Even the torrent did not waste its energy by singing. It's written in parentheses, in brackets. And the girl's movement on the road was like the rapid movement of a skilled hand on the strings of a guitar. The author has used a simile. Hair was carelessly done. A few inquisitive wisps flew on her white forehead to peep at the dark wonder of her eye. The unemployed man was standing by the fountain. As a princess sees a lonely beggar through a window and is filled with pity, the busy girl of heaven saw the unemployed man and was filled with pity. So if you were the sort of person who was engaged in doing what this particular person was doing, you were supposed to be unemployed. And the girl felt pity on this unemployed man. Aha, she said, you haven't any work in hand, have you? The man said, okay, work, I haven't a moment to spare, I've got enough things to do, I don't think I'm unemployed. The girl couldn't understand his words. And he says, I may manage to spare some work for you if you like. Who said this? Not the man, the girl said. The man replied, girl of the silent torrent, all this time I have been waiting here only to take some work from your hand. So he says, okay, I'm not unemployed, I don't have a moment to spare, but then I've been waiting to get some work from you. So if you can give me some work, I will do it. What sort of work would you like? Obviously she was thinking of this person as someone who obviously would have been observing this guy, like so many people out there. So she says, what type of work do you think you can do? Because I have not seen you doing anything worthwhile. We are all busy. There are farmers, there are different types of workmen, men, women, old, young. Everybody is busy and we enjoy doing what we are doing. What type of work would you do? And he said, girl of the silent torrent. That's the term used by the worker, the wrong man, sorry. And he says, couldn't you give me one of your pitchers, one which you could spare, a pitcher? Perhaps you should like to draw water from the torrent. Okay, fine, you're falling in line now, because we all do this. A lot of women do this. Maybe men also do this here. So you want to sort of draw water from the torrent. He said, no. What do you do? What would you want to do then? The girl became annoyed. He said, I would like to draw pictures on your pitcher. And she said, I don't have time for people like you, I'm going, and she went. But how could a busy person get the better of the one who had nothing to do? Every day they met. Every day he said to her, give me one of your pictures. I will draw pictures on it. At last she had to give way. It was sort of a pleading, he kept doing it. Every day he would request her for the picture so that he could draw pictures. Remember, he was an expert at that. That's what he did on planet Earth before he died and came to paradise. A misfit here because, one of the aerial messengers brought him to paradise by mistake. Now, the girl, at last she had to give way and hand him over one of her pictures. The man started, he was on the job. So, for all those people who think that this person was not doing anything, whatever spare time he had, whether he was in the meadows or the garden or wherever he would sit, he was a dreamer. He was imagining things. Maybe he would think about what type of designs, intricate designs he should be drawing, or maybe he dreamt of colors, and he had his own world and he was busy. Now when he told the girl that he was busy, it doesn't mean he was telling a lie. He was pretty busy. He was occupied by what he was doing. The man began to paint. He drew line after line. He put color after color. The girl, when he had finished, the girl held up the picture and stared at its side with eyes filled with wonder. And she said, what do these lines mean? All these lines, all these colors, what is the purpose? Now that is the question which we were trying to answer in the previous video. What is the purpose of this? Is there any purpose of all this? Why do people indulge in art? Why do they draw? Why do they sculpt? Why do they paint? Why do they doodle? So these are questions which we don't have answers for. Is it just for passing time? Is it just for money? Is it just to sell the painting, or is there any other motive? What is the purpose? That's the question that the girl asks. The man laughed. Nothing. A picture never has any meaning. It never serves any purpose. And the girl went away with the picture. At home, away from the prying eyes. She couldn't do a few things when she was in the midst of people. She obviously had to escape those prying eyes. Can we go back to the meaning? Pry is to look closely or curiously. Ply is different. Work busily. PLY is different from PRY. So she went away from those prying eyes. And I'm going to read this paragraph. It's an important paragraph. She held it in the light, turned it round and round, scanned the painting from all angles. At night, she left her bed, lit a lamp, and scanned it again in silence and wonder. For the first time in her life, she had seen something that had no meaning and no purpose at all. When she set out for the torrent the next day, her hurrying feet were a little less hurrying than before. The picture, the design, the painting, the intricate lines had an effect on her mind, and the effect was she didn't seem to be in a too much of hurry like she usually would be. For in her mind, thoughts had arisen, thoughts that had no meaning and no purpose at all. Now we will pause here. Thoughts that had no meaning, no purpose at all. Do you have such thoughts sometimes? Do you get into that world of thoughts which don't have meaning, which don't have purpose, but occupy your mind? Many times you talk about creative people. There is one particular occupation called as copywriter. A copywriter is a person who designs, designs these taglines for advertisements. Something like "Yeah, he her right choice, baby" was one of the tagline for Coca-Cola. Always Coca-Cola may seem, just two words, but then someone had to coin it. And there's so many other, something, I remember the, something like, in India we have this chocolate which says, "Melody itni chocolatey kaise bane?" And the answer to that, someone gives is, "Melody khao khud jaan jao." Now, the guy who does this writing is called as a copywriter. And copywriters, when you look at them, they look a little weird. They've got long hair. They don't wear these, what do you say? They don't come in of the clothing that the office clothing, or what do you call this? We talk about dressing for the office, formal, sorry. It took a long time to get that word. Right, formal dressing. They don't indulge in formal dressing. They are basically, they are into, they wear, so these guys, these copywriters never are found in formal clothing. They're not supposed to. They come in t-shirts and shorts. Their job is not to sit in front of a computer and do what they do, like in most offices or different occupations. So the job that these people indulge in is that they are supposed to come up with ideas. So you'll find them sometimes weird. You'll find them just sitting for hours somewhere. There are places specifically designed. When you go to an advertising agency, you'll find it very creative and a lot of colors. That's basically because you need creative people there. So I'm coming back to the point. The girl got into this world of aimless thinking, and she sort of was enamored by the powerful work done by this wrong man. Okay, so so this girl was enthralled by the work done by the wrong man. And she saw the unemployed man standing by the torrent, and she asked confusedly, "But what? What do you want from me?" Now, the man was standing there. He didn't ask anything to the girl. We should understand. These are, reading between the lines. But the girl on her own, she asks him, "What do you want from me?" And he said, "Only some more work from your hands." "And what sort of work would you like?" "Let me weave a colored ribbon for your hair, if you will." "And what for?" "Nothing." Ribbons were made, gleaming with colors. The busy girl of workers' paradise had to now spend a long time every day in tying the colored ribbon around her hair. The minutes slid by unutilized. I think this is a very important word. Much work was left unfinished. Now, I want you to focus on this. If you remember the description of the girl, let's go back to it. The description of the girl, her hair was carelessly done. Now, I want you to pay attention to that. She didn't have time for her hair, to do her hair, to maybe comb and, plait her hair or whatever. And today, because of this ribbon, she spent a long time tying the colored ribbon round her hair. A lot of work was left unfinished. So this continued. In workers' paradise, work had of late begun to suffer. Many persons who had been active before were now idle, wasting their precious moments on unnecessary things such as painting and sculpture. Now look at the effect which art has on people, even in workers' paradise. We are not talking about an ideal scenario for art to thrive. We are not talking about a place like Lamakan. We are talking about workers' paradise also getting affected. The elders became anxious. A meeting was called. All agreed that such a thing had so far been unknown in the history of workers' paradise. The aerial messenger hurried in, made a confession. He bowed down. "I brought a wrong man in this paradise. It's all due to him. I admit, I confess, this was the biggest blunder of my life," according to the aerial messenger. Now this man was summoned. Who was this man? The wrong man. He was summoned. He came in. The elders saw his fantastic dress, his quaint brushes, pile of paintings. They realized at once he was not the right sort for workers' paradise. Stiffly the president said, "This is no place for the likes of you. Therefore, you will have to leave at once." The man sighed in great relief, gathered his brush and paint, but as soon as he was about to leave, the man was not someone who would argue, not someone who would try to prove that, it's not my mistake. Ultimately, it's you who brought me here and you want me to go. I'm not going to go. He was a simple guy. He was a person of art. He believed in art. He believed in the power of art. He spent his time dreaming and visualizing and thinking about designs and things that not many people were interested in. But he was not doing something wrong. He was not into sin. It was not a sin to be idle. Now, but the question is, was he really idle? Was he really a wrong man? Now, that is for us to decide, the readers
should decide that. But the elders said, "You have to leave at once." And the man sighed. You know what was the sigh? Now there are two types of sigh, S-I-G-H. Sigh of relief, sigh of pain. Can you tell me what type of sigh was this? This was a sigh of relief. Don't think that this man was, enjoying himself in workers' paradise. This was not a place for him. Don't think that he was a misfit for all the other people out there. He himself did not enjoy being there. Sigh of relief, gathered his brush and paint. But as he was about to leave, the girl of the silent torrent came up, tripping, and said, "Wait a moment, for I too will go with you." Now we really don't know where these people are going. Will the elders decide to send this man to some other place? Is there some other place where people engage in such occupations, where such useless, idle people are thrown? We don't know. But certainly they seem to tell him that this is not the place for you. We have another place for you. Now that's for our imagination to decide what type of a place would that be. The man sighed in great relief and gathered his brush and paint. But as he was about to leave, the girl of the silent torrent came up, tripping, and said, "Wait a moment, for I too will go with you." The elders gasped in surprise. Now this was the shocking moment. Now we should understand here that the girl of the silent torrent, we really don't know how long she had been there, but she was a dedicated worker. She was a dedicated worker who had spent quite some time there. She was a professional. She was, she was maybe someone who was idealized by the others, because she seemed to have been someone who diligently did what she did, drawing water. Maybe she did that through the day without complaining. She was, an example for the others. Maybe the elders took her example whenever there was a new entrant there. And therefore, the elders gasped in surprise. For never before had a thing like this happened in workers' paradise. Do you remember this particular statement? Line was used by the author a few paragraphs earlier. Never before had such a thing happened in workers' paradise. What was that? People engaging in, let me go back to it. People engaging in unnecessary things like painting and sculpture. Never before had such a thing happened, and never before has such a thing happened like what? A girl deciding to go along with this wrong man. The elders gasped in surprise, for never before had a thing like this happened in workers' paradise, a thing that had no meaning and no purpose at all. The author, Rabindranath Tagore, decides to end the story here. Now when you have some of these Hollywood movies ending like that, so we expect a part 2. Now whether there's a part 2 for this or not, I really don't know. There is no part 2 for the story, but then it means that the author has left it to our imagination to think about art, to think about some of these lesser known occupations, some of these things in which people are not people engage in. You find some of these workers of art on the streets of your city. They come up with a beautiful painting on the road. Some of them come with some artifacts. Someone comes with a sculpture made of wood or stone, and they are selling this for maybe 20 rupees or 100 rupees or 200 rupees. And maybe the same thing, if it is sold in Europe, would be sold for maybe 100 euros or $500. We don't know. So the author is giving us a lot of food for thought. He wants us to think about what happened to this man. Why did the lady decide to accompany him? Obviously because of the impact that he had on people there. Now, if he had remained there, maybe there would have been scores of people from Workers' Paradise who would decide to follow him. But one person who has been, bedazzled by the wrong man is this girl of the silent torrent, right? And she's so impressed by what he does that she decides to follow him. She says, "Wait a moment, for I too will go with you." The girl of the silent torrent. Never before such a thing has happened in Workers' Paradise. What was that thing? A thing that had no meaning and no purpose at all. So these are some things that, there are a lot of things that the author conveys through this beautiful short story, A Wrong Man in Workers' Paradise. So I would want you to spend some time thinking about it, go and read it again, read between the lines, underline some words and phrases which have had an impact on you. Maybe the story itself has had an impact on you, and then I would like to you to spend some time reading the story, contemplating, jot down a few things, a few points which you would like to discuss when we actually meet in the class, whether online or offline, and then we will take it from there. But I don't want you to end it here. Don't read it like a story which has a summary and then you write it for the examination for some 10 marks or something like that. I want you to get something more out of this beautiful story written by Rabindranath Tagore. Thank you so much.
Well, I hope it was a useful session, because we didn't directly go into the lesson. We sort of looked at the pre-reading questions. We tried to understand whether they make sense today. The lesson itself, the story itself, does it make sense today? We looked at various forms of art which very often are ignored, but still could be the source of somebody's sustenance, may be the reason for somebody being successful in life, may be the reason for somebody achieving whatever he or she has achieved. So that's basically what we did today. Hopefully it was a useful session for you. I would want you to go back to those few questions on which we spent about 30 to 40 minutes, and I want you to sort of read, reread, make notes, and I would be happy if you can read the story itself, because you'll be coming better prepared, because I don't believe in reading the story and trying to make you understand. Those are things that we normally do at school. But what we do is we read to comprehend, we read between the lines, we do all this so that we get the best out of the story. So even before we go and do the prose lesson, that's the next thing on the agenda. I would want you to prepare yourselves to do the prose lesson in an effective manner. Thank you so much. Have a great day.